Lol. My dad had this crazy dream, which scared the shit out of him. You know those dreams that seem extra special and like a glimpse into something to come? He's the kind of guy to not joke or make up shit, but he told us about this dream. It pretty much goes like this. Dad wakes up and feels and tastes some kind of ionization in the air. Goes outside and sees clouds that look like fire and lightning. Everyone walks outside, all over the planet, to look at the strange clouds. Blue lights appear in the sky, and a trumpet starts blaring. Blue lights start surrounding people and start sucking people up into the sky in a blue tractor beam. Everyone is laughing and crying with joy. The rapture has come. My dad and the rest of the family and a few people that we know are taken out of tractor beams by disc-shaped UFOs. The UFOs are being piloted by the Greys. Dad starts seeing things through a woman he doesn't know's eyes. She's in the tractor beam, going higher and higher. There is some kind of triangle with an eye and wings on the side, way up in space. Hyper-vivid, celestial imagery as she approaches the eye. Goes through the eye, and everything becomes black. Wakes up in some sort of holding pen, with millions of other people. Small port window, she looks outside, and sees an armada of giant UFOs. Sees people in blue tractor beams, going into the ships. A horn blows. The pen is illuminated, and they are in the center of some kind of pit. Reptilian aliens, in a Colosseum-style, seated environment, are all screeching and salivating. Horn blares again, and the reptilians all start jumping into the pit to eat everyone. You could hear the screams from all the ships echoing for some reason in the emptiness of space. A priestly class reptilian stands at the top to watch everything happen. Cut back to my father and us in the grey ship. The Greys are taking us to some kind of desert oasis place. We can see the Greys dismantling every remnant of human civilization. We see all the cities turned into dust, and then we see massive tidal waves all over the planet to wash it all away. The water settles, and the Greys drop us off with others who were picked to survive. Basically, have information relayed to us that we are to restart civilization and create a sizable population again. Get told we are a farm planet for an alien ritual that takes place every 12,000 years. We try our best to sketch the truth into rocks with words, paintings, and other glyphs. We create stone monuments so that hopefully the next cycle would find out and fight back. We slowly grow a sizable population and leave the garden. Cycle starts again. All the truths about this cycle are either forgotten or warped so far from the truth they become myths and legends. No one remembers the next cycle. That dream changed my dad. He doesn't joke about things. It was odd. My brother, who was a UN peacekeeper almost 20 years ago now, started seeing prophetic dreams while he was deployed. He says he knew exactly where conflicts were going to happen and when. He told his co-workers in casual conversation what would happen a couple of hours before it happened. He'd just call it a hunch, even though they were very specific. It happened 3 times, exactly as he had told before anyone listened to him seriously. After preventing 10 separate incidents from escalating, by having troops already deployed in the area he was taken proper note of. He was decommissioned quickly after that, and deemed unfit for duty for no real reason. A falsified physical injury. He wasn't deemed a schizo, which makes it seem like the higher-ups knew something about the phenomenon. Maybe it had happened before to someone. Maybe it interfered with what they were there for. After all, why else would they decommission him when it saved human lives? In my life, I have had dreams about what will happen. True, it was usually always about the death of relatives. I also had a dream about a friend from school all the time. I was surprised that he was dreaming about it for 3 days in a row. I checked his VK, then his phone, and it turned out to be everything. Either it was an accident or something else. We haven't seen each other for 8 years. What am I talking about? I believe in the Earth's information field. And it seems to me that the overwhelming majority will also dream about nuclear explosion if it happens and in advance. And not only in dreams, but it will also be simply felt by the fifth point. Stink in the air, touch in the back of the head, and whisper with ultrasound. We shared dreams and premonitions without prejudice. It was a DEFCON. I will bump my dreams with a nuclear weapon. In short, I am about 7 years old. I dream that planes, Boeings, are flying incredibly low over my area. Moreover, they are landing on the roof of the cinema, Moscow, Soviet. I can't see from below where they land. Dad comes up and lifts me to a height of several floors, showing me the roof, and I see a fucking blinding white ball all over the roof. Blinded me in my sleep, lol. Then I felt the gigantic power that the ball was holding. It was shaking all over. Well, I woke up scared. At the age of 7, of course. I wasn't in nuclear training courses, but it looks like it. The next dream I remember clearly is that I am about 18 years old. I'm a student at the university. Well, actually, I dream that I'm standing in the courtyard in front of the university, messing with the normies. Then we go to the metro. I was too lazy, unpleasant, to go with them. I go into the cafe alone. There are a lot of people in the cafe. They took out the windows. I'm leaving the cafe. I can see trees pointing with their fingers, and between the trees, a rocket falls diagonally, and it's silver, with a real glare. Immediately, the shouting began. Fucking fuck. Something similar to that. Well, I didn't hear the scream specifically. Who knows this feeling that someone is screaming? And this scream makes your soul sink. This is exactly the feeling that I experienced, although I did not hear any screams. Well, I got scared and woke up. In general, I always do this when a dream scares me. I'm about 22. After having some shitty sex, I felt disgusting, as if I had sold my soul. Don't fuck me, it's fucked up. I got very drunk alone. Then I was afraid that I would start vomiting, so I took some charcoal. Well, in short, there was a lot of stress before going to bed, and when I finally fell asleep the next morning, I immediately began to have some kind of fucking dream, as if I was living in the subway in the form of a blot. We had a caste system there. The blots are suckers. The average ones are the humanoids, but very low and weak, similar to devils and goblins. Top, these were giant worms. They could not be touched. They moved through the tunnels, crawling. But there was a hostile territory of mechanisms, so the trains were just giant. I lived at a station where there were several tracks at once, definitely more than 4. There was always some kind of movement there, but as soon as they found out that a giant train would pass along the tracks, the shaking began. Everyone ran away. I crawled onto the tracks where there would be no trains, and the main fear was that the trains could pass along all the tracks at the same time, and I was definitely screwed then. Then there was some kind of social movement. I began to take on the outlines of a humanoid. Some kind of blots began to like me. We had some vague adventures. By the way, I have a strong weakness for children's TV series where a team of good boys and girls travels, helps people, and fights with villains. I felt about the same vibe in my dream. It was nice. I remember exactly how we got to the station, where it was full of greenery. Good worms came down the hole on the roof of the station, and the light was visible. The worms had wooden shoots, /vines in, which they had fruits. I knew that they could be taken by squeezing these vines, but the worms themselves could not unclench them. Then I returned to the station with several tracks alone. Suddenly, I feel like everything. There is no one at the station, because the trains will go along the tracks, and it's too late for me to leave. I see a giant white ball coming out of each tunnel, like in that childhood dream, instead of trains and water around her. Fuck. I was stupidly deaf in my sleep. How fucking deafening it is. I woke up all sweaty. I immediately remembered the ball in my childhood, and of course, my birthplace, Nucleus. I don't remember the next dream about a nuclear weapon at what age. I'm sitting in the car, I press the pedal, and somehow the car goes backwards, but I don't give a fuck. Then I tilt the steering wheel forward. The car drives backwards even faster. I'm driving at night. The forest rushes past me, i.e., the trees recede into the distance in the headlights. The road is bumpy, full of holes. Suddenly, the car begins to squelch, as if I was driving through shit. The surface is soft, the holes go into the distance, and now they contain human meat, arms, legs, all sorts of blood. There were also rotten pieces of flesh and burnt palms. I think how crap this looks. If only I could remove it all at once. Here, a shooting star sparkles. I look up. I see thousands of them now. They turn the entire sky into white stripes, and the stripes freeze. It's fucking jumping again. Everything is flooded with white light, and the earth is shaking. How she is jumping. I wake up. Many times, I dreamed of a forest, not in the context of a nuclear weapon, but it was something distant. In short, I dream of a forest with mirrors. I walk around, looking into them, but without my reflection there. I just see branches and greenery in them, so I'm not scared. I meet my cousin in this forest. I tell her something like this: when we wake up, and if you also had a dream with mirrors, then telepathy exists. In a dream, I was glad that I had found proof of metaphysical bullshit. Perhaps there will be life after death. As soon as I thought about it, the mirrors immediately turned black. It became creepy as fuck, but my sister was chirping something. I kind of calmed down, knowing that she was nearby. I woke up a little from fear, but not completely. I am trying to listen to what she says. I only remember something like, "Heaven will be later." Then she went into the mirror. It turned white and began to drown me out again. Without waiting for creepy shit, I finally woke up myself. By the way, with my cousin IRL, I was embarrassed for a long time to talk about the dream with mirrors to prove it. Then when I asked, I immediately understood from her facial expressions that she thought that I said some kind of bullshit. Like she wasn't bullshitting that she didn't dream of such a thing. And in general, according to her words, she generally has delusional dreams that she does not remember. Here, by the way, my brain produced a very similar peak. I dream of a gigantic oil depot. These supposedly tanks go beyond the horizon. I'm some kind of fucking fighter with a machine gun. I feel disgusting in a dream because I received news that my child and wife died. At the same time, I'm not married and have no children in real life. Disgusting because I felt like I was liberated, like I felt good, although I should have been grieving for them. A team of people comes out from the tank. They start swearing, showing something on the maps, and yelling. I immediately forgot about my dead wife and started trying to find out from them what was going on. We were supposedly on the same team. Someone again points a finger at the sky and says something like, "Fuck, it's going to blow." I see a star fall in the sky, and it unnaturally falls vertically down in a straight line beyond the horizon. I feel like we're going to be covered. We're running into the tanks. They're empty inside, like we're hiding. I sat in one tank, and there were supposedly people sitting around the tank inside. Civilians, fucking children, and old people. I sat down among them and began to prepare. Like silence, silence, then screaming from women and children. Well, again, I didn't hear a scream. My soul just sank to my feet, as if from the screams and squeals of despair. I realized that the tank could not hold it, and I had to run away. We climbed the ladder inside the tank and started jumping over the tanks, like a mad race. Well, what happened next was some kind of blurry shit. I was already starting to wake up. Lately, I have often dreamed of nuclear weapons, war and devastation with hopelessness. I dreamed that I was driving home on the train past Riga or Dmitrovskava and saw a nuclear bomb blowing away Ostankino. The train stopped, the windows were broken, but I managed to hide from the glass underneath the seats. And then I couldn't move and felt like I was burning along with the train. I dreamed that we went to play some kind of quest, but we had to go through a labyrinth. Suddenly, the doors jammed, and they had to go through conflicts and tricks to get water and food, in addition to solving riddles. When we left the labyrinth, the world was destroyed. I dreamed about hiding in some kind of bunker under a country house, I got out of the bunker to go home, to get some things, and caught a flash and explosions. I started looking for an abandoned vehicle to get back, but I realized that I had already been fatally irradiated and that there was no point in rushing. I dreamed that I was a child, playing on the street with friends. All the houses were destroyed and burnt. People were drinking and celebrating some kind of holiday on the street at huge tables. The school physical education teacher sends children into the basement to catch certain vampires who eat these children. Children are armed with green helmets and cut-off Mosin rifles. Before this, the physical education teacher teaches airsoft, grenade throwing, and shooting. The children go to the basement, but I run away and steal alcohol from drunk people. There, the physical education teacher catches me, scolds me, and sends me to the basement. There I meet the dark silhouette of a deaf vampire and understand that the rest of the children are already dead. I usually have all my dreams when I wake up, i.e., they are easy to remember because they just happened, and if the creepiness starts, I quickly wake up. But there were fucking dreams where it seemed to me that I woke up, and now it was reality. Although this was a continuation of the dream, and in my sleep, I gasped at how this could happen. Usually this happens in dreams late at night. There was such a creepy dream, again with a nuclear weapon. I don't remember the initial dream well, but it was definitely fucked up. Roughly speaking, the whole earth was stripped, meat and skin. There was an eye and some bones. This small breast was twitching. I get down and try to tear this pile off the ground. It seemed to me then that it was my older sister's little chihuahua, who had already died for 15 years by that time. In a dream, it becomes scary. I seem to wake up, look up at my mobile phone. There are numbers there, and I am 100% sure that this is not a dream, since I do the usual action of checking the time, although it is a dream law. It's like I'm going to watch TV with my mom and dad, and there is white noise. Everyone is freaking out. I think it's like an electromagnetic shock, although everything would have burned out there, and we need to get out. Deep in my soul, I always perceived my older parents as a burden in the event of a critical situation with a question of survival. Supposedly they were too slow, and I seemed to be tossing around in my sleep, whether to take them or not. The next scene, I'm driving in a car with them, like there's a DS behind me, and I'm thinking about going to the dacha, but then a nuclear bomb hits me from behind. I think that the wave won't overtake me. I press the gas, but the dream completes the power of the nuclear missile. The back of my head incinerates, because I thought it was reality. I have come to terms with death, and I don't look back anywhere so as not to watch how others suffer. I'm starting to fall somewhere. Then I seem to become a spirit, and see the area of our dacha, but our house is stupidly not there, and our dog, a shepherd dog, although he lives in an apartment in a village, wanders there, sniffing the ground. It's literally just a vacant lot, a green area with grass, and a dog wanders here and there. The tension subsides. I don't give a damn about my own death, and I continue to sleep, but I remember this dream well. The next dream was interesting in terms of sensations. Just before the war, I was walking through the forest, and I was holding myself with my left hand to a thorn that was sticking out of my head, which was separated from my body. Moreover, there was a realistic shaking of the image, as if it was felt that the head was out of place. My thoughts are confused, and it seems to me that I need to put my head back in place, then everything will be normal. But my body thinks that now I'm useless. It just throws me to the ground and moves on. My head immediately begins to grow into the ground. I look angrily at the back of my retreating body. It becomes unpleasant for me that I am left behind. I feel offended, as if I see my fucker distorted by anger from the outside. Realizing that I will stay here and the body will move on, I begin to howl. Red liquid begins to flow from my mouth along with the howl. The body does not give a fuck, but it moves on and evaporates. My teeth fall out, and my howl turns into a roar. White noise. My head becomes the epicenter of the explosion, wiping everything into powder. But I feel bad, because it's already too late. The body is gone. I always wake up from this roar. I am even surprised that this roar/ringing does not affect the ear's hearing at all, since there is an incredible, vibrating roar. The last dream I had about myself was about 6 months ago. I dreamed that they decided to join my high-rise building and the neighboring one together, and they are starting to build something like a local giga ruin. I'm sitting at the computer in my apartment. The house starts to shake. I think that because of this construction by the residents of the house, the whole structure has become unstable. The house is shaking. I go down and walk around my yard. There is supposedly a playground there. I can see the first few floors from it. They become glass, like some big-ass guy and his asshole wife set up a store selling cages with big birds, and supposedly the store is made of glass, so everyone from the street can see how awesome the birds are. Moreover, this glass creaks and warps. I understand why the house is shaking. I'm going to fuck with the major. I go up to the second floor of his glass apartment, and there seems to be no walls. A stupid wooden platform in the middle of a multi-story room. A staircase leads to it. There is a thin mattress with blue-red stripes on the floor. Right on the mattress, the major is there, and he turns to me and tries to calm me down, saying it's good. He stops selling birds, and as long as there are enough of them, everything is in order. The house will never fall. I calm down and go down the stairs, but I see how the glass makes sunbeams, and it seems to focus on several birds, and they immediately die from thirst. I stupidly ignore this. I want to go back to my apartment, but in hindsight, I understand that since the birds are dead, their total number has changed, and supposedly, the house may fall apart. I stop, wondering whether to take my parents out of the apartment, or just jump out of the window while it's still too low, like an escape. I came to the idea that I could stupidly ignore this. Like I went out for a walk again. I'm walking around my neighborhood. It's a little different. I went out into the yard where my best friend lived from school, and there they're handing out free shit. But they look at me with pity, like I'm a sucker for agreeing to eat free food, but at the same time with understanding. I'm thinking about ignoring that they feel sorry for me and eating, but then I hear the train whistle. Instead of a road, there were rails on the street. A train was traveling along them, and there were supposedly Soviet soldiers in the uniform of the Second World War. I'm scared that they will throw me on the train too, but I was scared to go home because I ignored the dangerous situation with the birds and that everything there might be in ruins. My thoughts became more and more logical, and I realized that I was waking up. Well, in short, I woke up. Then I chewed everything according to the images. The house is the country. The major was Vladimir Putin. The birds are either our planes, by the way. Maybe those same drone planes, or our nuclear power. On the train, it's the gangsters cosplaying as grandfathers. Free hogs, our countries accepting refugees. The birds died from the sunbeams, targeted strikes with a weapon maybe. I don't know, but it's an interesting dream. I'll tell you about my nuclear dream. I had it when I was sick with COVID. Then I had fucking dreams every night. In general, I dream about how I walk through a deserted city, clearly foreign, southern, on the ocean shore. The city is in good condition. Nothing is destroyed. Shop windows, cars are standing, cleanliness. Only there are no people or animals anywhere, and the sun is scorching, the horror of the day. And from somewhere, I suddenly understand, as it happens in dreams, that this city is San Francisco, a city with a disco style, but there are no people, because it became known that they would strike it. Well, you know who, with a nuclear strike, and that's all the people that left there in advance. Well, after that, I continue to walk around the city, where a nuclear bomb is about to fly. I go down to the ocean, etc. There was another little guy who followed me, hid around corners, and thought that I did not notice him. I had this dream in November 2021. That is, a little more, and I had another very scary dream right before this, but it wasn't about the nuclear weapon. The most vivid dream I've ever had. Years later, I can recall details and emotions. Attended a fancy ceremony / commemoration with my family. when I was 15 at the time of the dream. Dirty bomb suddenly goes off in the middle of the ceremony at 1:14 p.m. I was compelled to check my watch afterwards that I wore IRL. Everyone running, screaming, crying. I get separated from my mother and sibling and meet back at my house with my father. Stares through the chaos at our second-story window saying, "Doesn't matter anymore," with a terrible, hopeless look on his face. A few seconds later, an actual nuclear bomb detonates, and I see the light from it devour my entire town, my father, and melt the skin off my face as I died. Can't recall too much after I die for the first time, but I wake up the previous morning with this knowledge and try to stop it at least a few hundred times through several means. But a 15-year-old boy can't do very much with only a few hours to act, so I was never even close to successful. I've had dreams that turned out to be true too, mostly dreams about death. I remember being a kid, around 8 or 9 years old, and there being 2 occasions when I had a dream about someone dying. Both were really mournful, asking where someone is, and even though nobody tells me they're dead, I just know. They felt really empty and depressing for some reason. Afterwards, I'd wake up in tears, and days after, a relative and a family acquaintance died. Also, the one about the stillborn reminds me of this dream I had where I was working at a nuclear power plant, and there being a disaster. I had to go with the rest of the staff to do containment procedures, but there was a woman on the other side. She started begging and told us she was pregnant, and I can remember this quite vividly because her screams were terrible. Left me feeling kind of weird after waking up. We come across a stream running through a bunch of red clay. Think we should follow it. Stream is no deeper than a foot. Water is a reddish hue from clay. Our shoes are caked in mud and clay. Hayden sees something off in the distance and goes to check it out. He slips on the mud and falls. He's yelling for help. Go to see what happened. He's almost fallen off a small cliff, about a 15-foot drop. Below him is all red clay and mud. He's holding onto a root growing into the side of the cliff. Reach out my hand and pull him back up. Can't remember what happened next. Just remember crying uncontrollably while walking for a long time with Hayden, until we come across one of Hayden's cousins, who leads us back to camp. This is normally where the memory ends. In the dream last night, I remember what happened. When I reached out to help Hayden back up, I saw something. Something rising out of red clay and mud at 3 different places. They were clawing to get out, like they had burrowed themselves in. They had thick arms with jagged spikes, kind of like a praying mantis that they were using to dig themselves out. Their heads were pointy and cone-shaped, with beady eyes on the side, and a beak where the tip of the cone would be. Each one was about the size of a small dog. They were all facing Hayden, and slowly making their way towards him. Tell him not to look down. Finally pull him up, and he collapses on the ground. Lie, and say I hear someone calling me, and we walk away from the cliff area. We wanted to get away as soon as possible. Tell him what happened that night when we get back to camp. Obviously, he doesn't believe me. Just glad nothing bad happened. BF and I broke up, so I'm sleeping in the spare room. Have a dream that I tried to get up, but can't find the light switch. In my dream, I turn around, and the coat hanger on the door starts moving as though someone is outside. Try to ask who it is, but can't make any noise. A creepy white hand starts snaking its way around the door, and I try to scream, "Who are you?" So scared, I wake myself up screaming and force myself out of bed. Nothing, just a dream. 6 months later, living alone, no worries, done this before. Sleeping in my bedroom, which is right next to the front door of the apartment. Have a similar dream, where I can hear someone trying to get in my door. This time he's whistling. This time I leap out of bed and scream, "Who are you?" Storm to my front door. The guy looks at me, shocked, and says, You left your keys in the front door." Oh shit, I'm not dreaming. "Thank you, but you need to fucking leave." Guy hesitates, looks behind me. I have a mirror at the end of my hallway, so maybe he thought someone else was there. Hands me my keys and leaves. Proceeds to walk up and down the apartment stairs for an hour until I call the cops. He bails, and nothing comes of it. Thank God for that first dream. I think I would have frozen in place otherwise, but I was like, fuck, not this shit again. Ugh. Alien dream. I want to share this dream I had with X, because something in me is compelling me to share it. I don't know why, but I have this need to share. Before I begin, I want to say at the outset that this was a very vivid dream. I am able to recall the sequence of events from the dream better than most dreams I have. I would like some thoughts from you all on why this dream is so vivid and clear to me. Anyways, here is how it went. The setting of the dream was present day, but for some reason, I kept getting cues that the year was 2022, so obviously in the past. The dream began in a classroom or school. The class was talking about recent events, and the discussion was on recent contact that humans made with aliens. There were news reports that the aliens were aggressive at first and were causing harm to humans. However, I later learned that the aggressive nature of the aliens died down upon their first contact with humans, and instead, the aliens were now taking a more observational and experimental type approach to us. After this discussion, the class boarded a school bus, and the bus was taking us somewhere, presumably home, because it had many stops. One of my classmates on the bus, I think they had some kind of handicap, was very knowledgeable about the aliens. He told me that you could sense when the aliens were close by because of physical vibrations that would ring through the air, and you could feel these vibrations tingle in your body. As the bus made its stops, I started to feel the vibrations. There was an alien in the bus, though I could not see it. I exited the bus and began to walk down a long road. The bus disappeared entirely, and there was nothing but road for a little while. As I traveled down the road, I came across people. These people were moving slowly, almost like they were in a zombie-like trance. They could barely move from the spot that they stood at. As I began to walk by the people, I felt my movement begin to slow, and I began to walk as if I were in slow motion. Everything around me slowed considerably and felt like I entered into the trance. I kept walking and finally reached a large building/structure. I entered this building, and it was instantly familiar in setting. It looked very similar in layout to my elementary school from 2005, but on a grand scale. In the building, I came across this man. The man looked like an ordinary human being, but I instantly recognized that he was an alien. I can only suspect that the alien had shapeshifted or was using some type of technology to scramble my brain to think that I was seeing something other than the being's true form. I instantly befriended the alien in an attempt to gain favor with these beings. I asked the alien various questions, and he communicated with me, just like you and I would communicate. He waves his hand at me, and I instantly felt the slow motion I was in disappear, almost like he had ended the trance I was in. We continued to talk, and the alien told me that the aliens were emitting frequencies and energy waves to control humans and put us in a trance-like state. The alien told me that they had stopped being hostile to humans, and instead were putting us all through experiments for some unknown reason. I continued through the building with the alien, and he showed me humans performing different activities, all in a trance-like state. I kept asking the alien more and more questions because I wanted as much knowledge as I could get about who they were and what they wanted. I could tell this was angering and perturbing the alien, so he put me back in my trance. There were other aliens nearby when this happened, but they all looked like regular humans. I never got to see what the alien's true form looked like, but I kept getting the intuition throughout the dream that they were insect-like. Once I was put back into the trance, I could feel the strong, gravitational pull whisk me away to a room that could only be described as what used to be a library, but the used-to-be library was now full of extraterrestrial computers. The keyboard was labeled with foreign keys and symbols, and I got this feeling that the aliens wanted me to type something on the keyboard. There were literally hundreds of computers, and other humans were typing as well. I typed what came to mind, and I could see printers printing out the results of the human inputs. I was removed from the computer by another human-looking alien, and it told me I was finished here and I could head back home. It told me to walk out of a large door and to clear my mind, and I would find myself home. The alien specifically said If the mind-clearing technique does not work, there are other ways to get me home. I walked through the door, cleared my mind, and found myself not home. Instead of home, I was in a subway/train station-like area, except the things around were no trains. They looked like trains, but in reality, they were time-traveling vessels. The aliens had discovered how to time travel, using some technique unknown to mankind. I approached one older female alien. Still looked like a human, but I knew it was not its true form. The alien was very kind, and she made me know that it was her job to make sure I got home. All of the humans at the depot were assigned random numbers and waiting for their time-traveling train to arrive. The numbers would assign you a year and a location that you would arrive at. For example, you might get assigned the year 2002 and be transported to the state of Texas in that year. I told the nice older alien lady that I was from Georgia and I wanted to go back to that state in the year 2022/23. The alien lady said she would try her best to get me that ticket, but that there were no guarantees. I received my first ticket and waited to board the time-traveling train. As a group of us waited for the train, we shut the bowl with each other and we talked to another alien lady about the state of things. We asked the lady who they thought was the most intelligent human to ever live, and she quickly responded with Albert Einstein. In fact, she said they used Einstein's theory of relativity as a starting point for developing time travel. The train finally arrived, and I ended up in Wisconsin in the year 2013. This was not where I wanted to be, so I went into deep thought in an attempt to communicate with the aliens. A random stranger nearby approached me and suddenly froze everything in time. He was actually one of the aliens and asked me what was wrong. I told him I wanted to be in Georgia in the present day. He said he would work on trying to get me back to my time, but if that didn't work, I could stay in the year 2013, and after what would feel like a couple of months in that time, would actually be several years, and I would be caught back up to my time. He explained that time in the past moves faster than time in the present and future. Fortunately, this alien was able to find me a new ticket, and I was then transported to Birmingham, Alabama in the year 2017. Obviously, this was still not right, but at least I was closer in time to the present and geographically closer to home. The dream ended there. So, what do you think? What do you make of this strange dream? What does it mean?